You scroll through Instagram and see your college roommate posting from a rooftop bar in Miami. Your coworker just bought a brand new Tesla. Your neighbor is renovating their kitchen for the third time. Meanwhile, you're eating leftover pasta and wondering if you're the only person who checks their bank account before buying groceries. What's going on here? How is everyone affording this? The answer is going to make you feel a lot better about your own finances, but it's also going to make you question everything you thought you knew about wealth in this country. Because the truth is, most of what you're seeing isn't real. Not in the way you think it is. Let me show you the actual numbers, and I promise by the end of this, you'll stop feeling behind. Walk through any suburban neighborhood and you'll see it. 3,000 square foot homes with manicured lawns, luxury SUVs in the driveway, Ring doorbells, and solar panels on the roof. The visuals screaming success. But let me tell you what those houses actually represent. Financial quicksand. According to 2025 data from the Census Bureau and mortgage industry reports, the median home price in the United States is hovering around $400,000. For a conventional mortgage with 20% down, that's an $80,000 down payment, which most people don't have. So they're putting down 3 to 5%, sometimes less. That means they're financing nearly the entire purchase. Run the numbers on a $400,000 mortgage at current rates, roughly 7%, and you're looking at a monthly payment of around $2,600. Add in property taxes, insurance, and HOA fees where applicable, and that payment easily climbs to $3,000 or more. For someone making the median full-time income of about $60,000 a year, that's $5,000 per month before taxes. $3,000 of that is going to housing. That's 60% of gross pay. The rule of thumb is that housing shouldn't exceed 30% of your gross income, which for a $60,000 earner is $1,500 a month. These people are blowing past that by 40 to 50%. They're not wealthy. They're house poor. Every dollar is spoken for before it hits their account. But the house is just the foundation of the illusion. Let's talk about what's parked in the driveway. Cars might be the single biggest lie detector in personal finance. A new car screams, "I've made it," but in 2025, the average new car payment in the United States is over $730 per month. For trucks and SUVs, which dominate American roads, it's often over $1,000. 72-month loans are now standard. Some people are stretching to 84 months. That's 7 years of payments on a depreciating asset. Let's say you're financing a $50,000 SUV, which is completely normal now. At 7% interest over 6 years, you're paying over $900 a month. But it doesn't stop there. Insurance on a new financed vehicle averages around $200 a month. Gas is another $200 if you're commuting. Maintenance, even on a new car, adds up. You're easily at $1,300 a month minimum just to own and operate that vehicle. For someone making $60,000 a year, $1,300 a month is over 25% of gross income. Combined with that $3,000 mortgage, you're at roughly $4,300 a month in just housing and transportation. You've already spent more than you make, and we haven't even talked about food, utilities, or the 17 streaming services. This is how people are affording their lifestyles. They're not. They're financing the appearance of wealth while living in a state of permanent financial emergency. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Nick, but surely some people actually have money. What about net worth? Don't people build wealth over time? Yes, but not nearly as much as you'd think. The Federal Reserve releases data on household wealth, and the numbers are staggering in how low they are. For Americans under 35, the median net worth is around $39,000. That includes everything: home equity, retirement accounts, checking, and savings. Most people in this age group have essentially nothing. Ages 35 to 44, median net worth climbs to about $135,000. That sounds better until you realize that for homeowners, the majority of that is tied up in home equity, which you can't spend unless you sell the house or take on more debt. Liquid net worth, the actual cash or investments you could access, is often a fraction of that number. Even in the 45 to 54 age range, median net worth is only around $247,000. These are people in their peak earning years, and the median household still has less than $250,000 in total assets. Half of Americans have less than that. The Instagram influencer lifestyle you're comparing yourself to, statistically, it's built on leverage, not wealth. Here's another piece of the puzzle that nobody talks about. According to recent data, about 1/3 of adults aged 18 to 34 are living with their parents. 1/3, that's not a small number. Living at home eliminates rent, often eliminates groceries and utilities, and frees up an enormous amount of cash flow. If you're making $45,000 a year and living with your parents, you might have $2,500 a month in true disposable income. You can afford the luxury car payment, the weekend trips, the designer clothes. You look successful because you've eliminated your biggest expense, housing. Meanwhile, the person making $70,000 and paying their own rent has less discretionary income than you do. This isn't a criticism. Multi-generational living is common in many cultures and makes financial sense, but it creates a distorted comparison. You're looking at someone's lifestyle and assuming they're earning way more than you, when in reality they're just spending way less on essentials. Then there's the invisible safety net. A 2024 survey found that roughly 50% of parents with adult children provide them with some form of regular financial assistance. We're not talking about an occasional dinner. The average amount is nearly $1,500 per month. Rent assistance, car payments, insurance, groceries, phone bills, it adds up. So when you see someone in their late 20s driving a new BMW and living in a nice apartment downtown, there's a decent chance mom and dad are subsidizing a significant portion of that lifestyle, and you'd never know it. They're not going to post about it, but the gram shows the car, not the Venmo transfer from their parents' account. This creates what I call the invisible income effect. You're comparing your entire financial reality against someone else's curated financial facade. And that facade might be built on a foundation you can't see: parental support, debt, side hustles they never mention, inheritance, or simply living in a way that prioritizes appearance over actual financial security. None of that shows up in the Instagram post of them at brunch. Let's talk about investing for a second, because that's another area where perception and reality have a massive gap. Like, walk into any corporate office and you'll hear people talking about their portfolios, their retirement accounts, how the market's doing. It creates this impression that everyone's investing, everyone's building wealth through compound interest. But according to recent data, only about 62% of US adults own any stock at all. That means 38% have zero exposure to the stock market, none. No retirement account, no brokerage, no index funds. And of the 62% who do invest, a large portion have relatively small amounts. The median retirement account balance for Americans in their 30s is under $50,000. That's not nothing, but it's also not the diversified portfolio and aggressive wealth building you'd assume based on how often people talk about it. What you're seeing is selection bias in action. The people who talk about investing are the people who invest. The people who don't have portfolios aren't broadcasting that fact. So you end up in environments where it feels like everyone's crushing it financially, when statistically most people are barely keeping their heads above water. Even among higher earners, the data is not great. A study found that nearly 1 in 4 people earning over $100,000 per year still live paycheck to paycheck. How is that possible? Because income and wealth are not the same thing. You can have a 6-figure salary and still be broke if your expenses scale with your income. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what happens. Here's where it gets interesting. The psychological term for what we've been talking about is called social comparison theory. Humans are hardwired to evaluate their own success by comparing themselves to others. It's not a flaw. It's biology. The problem is that in the modern world, your comparison group has exploded. Like, it used to be your neighbors, your coworkers, maybe your extended family. Now it's everyone on the internet. You're comparing yourself to people in different tax brackets, different countries, different stages of life, and you have no context for their actual situation. You're playing a game where you don't know anyone else's score, but you assume they're all winning. There's also something called the reference group effect. If you hang out with people who spend a lot, you'll spend more. If your social circle includes people who lease luxury cars and take international trips twice a year, you'll start to feel like that's the baseline. You'll feel broke even if you're objectively doing fine because your frame of reference is skewed. This is why lifestyle creep is so dangerous. It's not just that you spend more as you earn more. It's that you start comparing yourself to a higher tier of spenders, which makes you feel like you're falling behind even as your income climbs. And let's be honest, some people are genuinely doing well. There are people who earn high incomes, invest wisely, and build real wealth, but they're rarer than you think. According to IRS data, only about 9% of households earn over $200,000 per year. Only about 1% earn over $500,000. The ultra wealthy you see online, the people with the Lamborghinis and the beach houses, they're statistical outliers. You're comparing yourself to the top fraction of a percent and wondering why you can't keep up. It's like watching Olympic athletes and feeling bad that you can't run a 4-minute mile. The comparison itself is fundamentally broken. There's another factor we haven't touched yet: side hustles. According to a recent survey, about 45% of Americans have some form of side income. That could be freelancing, gig work, a small business, selling stuff online, whatever. And a lot of that income goes unreported or underreported on social media. You see someone living a lifestyle that doesn't match their day job, and you assume they're either in debt or secretly rich. The reality might be they're pulling in an extra 2,000 or 3,000 a month from something they barely mention. That's not deception. It's just privacy. But it warps your perception of what's normal. Then there's timing. Someone might post about their new car in month 1, their vacation in month 3, and their home renovation in month 6. You see all of it condensed into your feed and think they're doing all of this simultaneously. But in reality, they saved for the car for 2 years, used credit card points for the vacation, and the renovation was a small project they stretched over 6 months. You're seeing the highlights compressed into a timeline that makes it look like constant luxury when the actual experience was much more modest. Credit cards play a huge role here too. The average American has about $6,000 in credit card debt, but plenty of people carry way more than that. It's entirely possible to fund a lifestyle that looks affluent by running up balances you can't actually afford to pay off. And from the outside, you'd never know. The vacation looks the same whether it was paid in cash or charged to a card at 22% interest. The appearance is identical, the financial reality is completely different. Here's what this all means for you. If you're sitting there feeling like you're failing because you're not keeping up with the people around you, there's a very high chance you're doing better than you think. If you're saving anything, if you're staying out of high interest debt, if you're investing even a small amount consistently, you're ahead of a massive portion of the population. The quiet financial wins don't get posted. Nobody's flexing about paying off their credit card or hitting a savings goal, but those are the things that actually matter. The lifestyle you're seeing around you is often a mixture of debt, help, timing, and selective presentation. Some of it's real. A lot of it isn't. And the only person whose financial situation you actually know is your own. So what do you do with all of this information? How do you actually operate in a world where financial reality is hidden behind a carefully curated facade? First, you have to get comfortable with the fact that you'll never have complete information about anyone else's finances. And that's actually liberating. You're not supposed to know. It's none of your business, and their situation is none of their business either. The comparison game is rigged from the start because you're comparing your internal experience, all the stress and uncertainty and trade-offs, to someone else's external projection. That's not a fair fight. You'll lose every time. Second, you need to redefine what success actually looks like for you. Not what it looks like on Instagram. Not what your parents think it should be. Not what your high school friends are doing. What does financial stability mean in your actual life? For some people, it's owning a home. For others, it's having 6 months of expenses saved. For others, it's being debt-free or being able to quit a job they hate without panicking. There's no universal scorecard. The moment you start chasing someone else's definition of success, you're back on that treadmill we talked about earlier, running toward a finish line that keeps moving. Third, and this is crucial, you have to start celebrating the invisible wins. Paid off a credit card, that's a massive accomplishment, even if nobody sees it. Hit a savings goal, that's real progress. Turn down a purchase because you knew it would derail your budget, that's discipline most people don't have. These moments don't get likes, they don't get comments, but they compound over time into actual financial security. The flashy stuff, the new car, the vacation photos, those are often the opposite. They're visible markers of money leaving your account, not building up in it. Here's something that might sting a little, but needs to be said. If you're constantly stressed about money, but you're also spending to keep up appearances, you're choosing the stress. I'm not saying it's easy to opt out. Social pressure is real. But every dollar you spend trying to look successful is a dollar you're not spending on actually becoming successful. The irony is brutal. The people who look the wealthiest are often the ones running the tightest margins, and the people who are quietly building real wealth often look completely average. Let's talk about the math of opting out. Let's say you're making that median $60,000. You're renting a modest place for $1,500 a month instead of stretching for a $2,000 mortgage. You're driving a paid off 10-year-old car instead of financing a new one for $700 a month. Right there, you've freed up over $1,000 a month compared to someone trying to project success. Over a year, that's $12,000. In 5 years, that's $60,000 plus investment returns. If you're putting it to work, that's a down payment. That's a career change fund. That's freedom. But it requires being okay with looking less successful than you could appear to be. And look, I'm not saying live like a monk and never enjoy anything. That's miserable and it's not sustainable. But there's a massive difference between intentional spending on things that genuinely improve your life and reflexive spending to maintain an image. One of those builds wealth, the other one burns it. You also have to get honest about what trade-offs you're willing to make. The person with the beautiful house might be working 70 hours a week and never sees their family. The person with the new car might be eating ramen 4 nights a week to make the payment. The person taking exotic vacations might have zero retirement savings. Everyone is making trade-offs. Everyone. The difference is that most people only show you the upside of their choices and hide the downside. You're seeing their vacation, not their credit card statement. You're seeing their car, not their stress about the payment. You're seeing their house, not the fact that they can't afford to furnish half the rooms. One more thing. If you're getting family help, own it. There's no shame in it. Multi-generational wealth transfer is how most people build financial stability. The shame comes from pretending you did it all yourself when you didn't. If your parents helped with a down payment, that's a gift, and it's a huge advantage. It doesn't make you less capable. It just means you had help. But when you pretend that help doesn't exist, you distort everyone else's perception of what's achievable, and you contribute to the exact problem we've been talking about. Here's the bottom line. The financial lives you're seeing around you are mostly illusions. Some of it's debt, some of it's help, some of it's selective presentation, and some of it's real, but even the real stuff comes with trade-offs you're not seeing. The median American is not living large. The median American is scraping by, making trade-offs, and trying to project stability even when they don't feel it. If you're saving anything, if you're investing anything, if you're staying out of high-interest debt, you're doing better than a huge portion of the population. You're just not posting about it, and that's fine. Financial security is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation. It just accumulates in the background while everyone else is performing. Stop measuring your progress against someone else's highlight reel. Measure it against where you were a year ago. Are you better off now than you were then? That's the only comparison that matters. Everyone else is on their own timeline with their own advantages, their own help, their own debt, and their own stress. You'll never have the full picture, so stop trying to compete with a mirage. The math is simple. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference, avoid debt, repeat. It's not glamorous. It won't get you followers, but it works. And 20 years from now, while everyone else is still trying to look rich, you'll actually be building something real. Look, I get it. It's hard to watch people around you seemingly win at life while you're clipping coupons and driving a car with a questionable transmission. But here's what nobody tells you. Most of those people aren't winning, they're performing, and the performance is expensive, exhausting, and ultimately empty. The next time you see someone posting from their beach vacation or pulling up in a brand new truck, remember this conversation. Remember the numbers. Remember that what you're seeing is probably a carefully constructed facade built on a foundation of debt, family money, or trade-offs they'll never mention. You're not falling behind. You're just refusing to play a game that's designed to make you lose. The people who actually make it financially are the ones who figured out that nobody's keeping score except them. They stopped caring what their neighbor drives. They stopped trying to impress people who don't actually care about them. They got comfortable looking average while building something substantial underneath. That's the real wealth. Not the house or the car or the vacation photos. The real wealth is waking up without financial anxiety. It's being able to quit a terrible job,